Hello, everyone. My name is Carmen Pang, and I am the co-founder and co-director of SWAG, Singapore Wildcat Action Group. Welcome to day 2 of Singapore Tiger Week 2021. And today is also World Ranger Day. And the video we saw just now is a tribute to all the Maiket Batek tribal community rangers who have been carrying the load of patrolling the forest during the COVID pandemic, when movements are restricted and borders are closed. Trained by Maiket, which stands for Malaysian Conservation Alliance for tigers, these community rangers are local tribal people whose villages are in tiger habitats in the Sungai Yu Wildlife Corridor in Malaysia. We want to give our special thanks to these community rangers and actually to all rangers in every corner of the world who risk their lives and make tremendous sacrifices daily to protect our natural heritage and our wildlife. Thank you. Okay, while we cannot be out in the jungle doing any active patrol, we at SWAG still want to do our part in promoting tiger conservation. So one way is by organizing this annual Singapore Tiger Week. It's a platform that we hope to use to gather experts to share their knowledge with the public and to have meaningful conversations with each other, which is why I am so excited to see so many of you here joining me for the first track of our conference. Over the upcoming days, we will have 3 tracks with 19 speakers from 10 countries who will tell us about their tiger conservation work. In a moment, Dr. Vilma Di Rosario, my SWAG co-founder and co-director and good friend, will tell you more about today's program and introduce our speakers to you. But before we proceed, I'd like to take care of a few housekeeping items. Firstly, all Singapore Tiger Week sessions will be recorded, and the recordings will be available in the SWAG YouTube channel after this week concludes, after the Singapore Tiger Week concludes. If you go to our website at swagcat.org, you will find links to all our social media channels, including our YouTube channel. And secondly, to minimize distraction, please mute your microphone during the presentations and use the chat function to ask any question you have for our speakers. We'll be monitoring the chat and we'll try to ask as many questions as possible during the Q&A segment, which comes after all presentations. And lastly, we'd like to take a Wi-Fi with everyone. So at this point, can we ask those of you who would like to be in the group photo to turn on your cameras briefly? And Daphne is going to be taking the screenshot. So Daphne, please let us know when to say cheese.
Okay, so everyone, I've got 3 pages here. I'm not sure who's on what page. So everyone just give me your biggest smile. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, let me just check this. Sorry. Okay, first page, good. Second page, 1, 2, 3, smile. Second page, good. Okay, third page, smile. Okay, all good. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Daphne. And now that we've gotten all the housekeeping items done, I'm going to hand it over to Vilma.
Thanks, Carmen. I'm Vilma, and so happy to see so many of you today. We have a very exciting program for today. It's our Malaysia program. It's a continuation from last night. And we have 4 young Malaysian conservationists to share their work in tiger conservation. So very quickly, we're going to have Chris Wong, after which we will have Chee Pheng, and then Lam Wai Yee, and last but not least, Kennesh Manokaran. So we will have them in that order. Sit back, relax, and enjoy listening to their work. So first up, we're going to have Chris. I will introduce Chris briefly. Okay, so Chris is from WWF Malaysia, and he's currently a manager with WWF's Tiger Conservation Program, and he works mainly in the north, in the Belum Temenggor Forest Complex, which is a key tiger recovery site in the country. Apart from increasing the awareness of Malaysians on conservation in Malaysia, he also monitors the population of tigers and their prey and ensures robust management of so as to protect the country's ecosystems. Chris has just had a baby, so we want all of us at SWAG would like to congratulate Chris. He was at a meeting with us last week, and then he had to run off because his baby was being born. So without further ado, may we welcome Chris Wong. Chris, please.
Thanks, Vilma. Yep. So I've shared my screen here. I hope it's on full screen mode. And if nothing comes up to me, I would just assume that things are going well over there on yours.
It's okay. It's good. Good.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Just let me give a brief in overall. Start with the historical and present range of tigers. What you see here, it can be very familiar to some people. So the patches in yellow is a historical range, and you can see it has reduced to less than 5% of its historical range, only color in orange or in gray. So and places where they exist in the wild are extremely patchy as well. So this is the tiger population in the world. In 2017, we see the downward trend being bent upward for the first time. And India and Nepal are among the countries that are seen doing tremendously well in their tiger population efforts. There are close to 3,000 from these 3,000, almost 3,900 individuals which are residing in India. So while the world is celebrating this, Malaysia, on the other hand, is having a different projection. So since the early 1950s, we all thought Malaysia had 3,000 wild tigers. In 1990s, the figure has fallen to around 650. And in early 2000, via Dr. Kai's study in Taman Negara, the result was used to extrapolate to the whole Peninsular Malaysia, obtaining the 500 wild individuals figure. So in 2014, all the tiger experts come together. We pull together all the information on tiger population. And what we realized then was that we knew so little, and the so little has been covered for tiger habitat in the country. So the patches in yellow are the sites where studies has been carried out, and density of tigers are known. So using this, Malaysia once again projected the figure throughout the country and got to a new low of 250 in 2014. And this is definitely worrying. With government buy-in and the leadership of the Wildlife Department, Malaysia carried out the first national tiger survey in 2016 onwards until 2020. So this survey was elaborated by Mr. Azril, a tiger expert from Wildlife Department yesterday. So I'm not gonna go too much into it. So I would just like to say that this one step of doing the national tiger survey is a very crucial step for tiger conservation in the country. This is like what yesterday's speaker Lara said. To know is to love, and to love is to protect. So this is what happens with the National Tiger Survey at this current moment. So before I bring you into WWF Malaysia priority site in Belum Temenggong in northern side of Perak, which borders Singapore, and walk you through the incidences that triggered a lot of worrying signs on the tiger. Let me walk you through first by explaining a little bit on how WWF Malaysia tiger conservation work came about. So in 1990s, there were reports of tiger causing terror within local communities residing near the forest. So in this state in Kelantan, the late Chief Minister, Nik Aziz, gave an order to kill all tigers on site. This was when WWF stepped in to say that, look, let us come in first to mitigate the situation before further actions are taken. So WWF Malaysia went in, do the assessment, and came up with proposals, including containing cattle in the paddocks after dark, and also to clear the plantation so that it leaves little room for a tiger to hide or camouflage. What you see on the top right is a rubber plantation where there's a lot of weeds around, where the next thing is very common that the rubber plantation workers become victim to the tigers. So how this happened was, one of the theories is that when they are tapping rubbers, they look like, when they're bending down, they look like they're on their fall, resembling a tiger prey species. So after all these measures were taken, the conflict was very much reduced to zero following years. So human-tiger conflict was a starting point of tiger conservation work for WWF Malaysia. We then moved forward to cover more areas in vicinity of the Gunung Basuh Forest, which was in Jeli, including Temenggong Forest Reserve, Roy Belum State Park, and Aman Jaya Forest Reserve. So in 2012, we returned to Gunung Basuh for first round of remonitoring, meaning doing the tiger counting survey for the second time. And result we got was that the population has dropped to more than 50% of the first survey. So this was the first red flag that we have gotten. So in Belum Temenggong Forest Complex, we had patrolling rangers going around. With this few teams on the ground prior to 2017, the team found a spike in snares. So in 2017 was the highest point where snares were detected in the whole landscape, which was at 127 snares. So 127 snares might not mean much to some people, but just bear in mind, if these 127 snares are active and each caught an animal, it could mean the end of life for all the 127 animals, including tigers and large mammals. So snares are just mere wires, but when being set up properly, it can be a very dangerous weapon. So these snares are extremely cruel in the sense that they do not discriminate. Any animal, including human, if you're not careful on stepping onto snares, will get trapped in the snares. And it also, when the more you struggle, the more the tighter the snooze gets. So it will injure more of the animal. So on the top left is actually a tiger caught in the snares. This was back in 2009. So it was found by a group of rangers from WWF Malaysia when they were doing patrolling on the ground. So suddenly they heard a loud roar coming from one direction. It sent them all running in different directions, and some even climbed trees. So it was only after a while that they were suspicious something was actually wrong. So the roar did not move away, nor it moved nearer to them. So the rangers braved themselves to check out the source of the roar just to find out that the tiger was caught in a snare. So Wildlife Department was called immediately, and it was the tiger was brought to safety into department's facilities for treatment. But very unfortunately, it died a couple of weeks later due to infection. So WWF Malaysia at that point, having all these warnings, knew that we need to do something drastic. And business as usual is no longer an option for us. From 3 teams in 2007, we increased the patrol teams to 10 in 2018. And as of 2021, we have 15 teams going full force on the ground. Each team consists of 5 indigenous people, where they lead and carry out the patrolling independently in assigned areas. So they're all trained in capacity building and data collection using GPS navigation and patrol protocols, and they are all expert in that now. So the results were really apparent. From 127 snares in 2017, we managed to reduce the snares up to 98% of the active snares found in the landscape. One more thing actually to note here is the effort being invested in this whole operation. Blue bars indicate the distance in kilometers covered by foot alone. In the past 2 years, in 2019 and 2020, the distance in kilometer walked by foot only was total up to more than 22,000 kilometers. So giving a little bit of context here, the distance from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur is about 350 kilometers. So this means if all of us are walking from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore and back, we already made 30 or more than 30 return trips. So this is how far they have covered in the whole landscape. And this is just a breakdown of patrolling routes covered since 2016. So as I mentioned, in 2016, there were 3 teams on the ground where we covered slightly more than about 2,000 kilometers, and we gradually increased to 3,005. And then in 2018 is where Stampede team was established. And then in 2019 and 2020, 11,000 kilometers walked respectively. So, but sadly, with all these effort put in place, with the reduction of snares being removed, all the threats, the damage has already been done. When we first did our survey in Royal Belum and also Temenggong Forest Reserve, we found out that Royal Belum was thought to have the highest known density of tigers in Malaysia. But when we completed our survey again between 2015 and 2018, there was already a decline in 50% of the tigers in the landscape. But while we continue to carry out survey, we also realized that there's more people that can contribute to this whole effort. It will not be possible with one of the most important partners and stakeholders in the landscape, the indigenous community. Comprising of Jahai and Temia tribe, the community have been very supportive of our conservation work on the ground. In our large-scale questionnaires carried out with them, about 2/3 of Orang Asli show positive response towards WWF Malaysia's work and activities. They are the first and last defense where they can be the eyes and ears for the authorities. And since they are staying in vicinity and in the forest itself, they can also make reports if they notice any suspicious illegal activities. So apart from that, collaboration and partnerships are also very important. So WWF Malaysia worked very closely in collaboration with Perak State Park Corporation, the governing body for Royal Belum State Park. When we put our resources together, we can cover more places and the areas can be more secure. Among the areas that if WWF Malaysia couldn't cover, the state park can actually cover them to spread all our efforts. So yeah, just to mention that all that I've mentioned are all the work from the ground, but we did not just stop there. It includes actually a multi-level approach that needs to take place. So apart from the groundwork, WWF Malaysia also do a lot of lobbying work, from trying to convince the Council of Ruler to Royal Police Force to highlight tiger as national priority. So looking at the tiger number here, the questions that I always got is that, is there still hope? So on the left is the national tiger number until 2019. A preliminary results from the National Tiger Survey says that we don't have even 200 tiger individuals in the whole country. And then on the right is also the same trend, having Belum Temenggong decreased by 50%. I would like to be frank with you. Every time looking at this two charts, it saddens me a lot. I just wish there are a lot of ways more that I can try to make things, just to make the trend go upward for once. But however, this is not an excuse to give up just yet. We still detect tigers consistently consisting of both males and females in the landscape. The patrolling will still continue to increase their effort with aim to sweep every single inch of the forest for threats, hence the name Stampede. And even though the situation does look bleak at this moment, last year, 2020, there is a glimmer of hope for us in the landscape. Results from the National Tiger Survey have really pushed the government to take actions. They are undertaking several major initiatives to make sure that tiger conservation work are really being pushed for. And on top of that, the WWF Malaysia camera trap picked up a mother and 3 cubs in the landscape. So the hundreds of forest complex in hope to get more such photos of evidence of them breeding. But moving forward, what I would like to say here is that the tigers in Malaysia are definitely in crisis, and tigers are heading towards extinction, provided if we do something to counter it. So what we do now will determine the outcome for the tigers. And if there's nothing that we are doing, then I'm afraid the trend will still go down. But with the government doing so much for the tigers now, the NGOs are also contributing. There is definitely hope for it. And one thing that I would like to ask from people is that do not let this crisis become a catastrophe where we end up at a point of no return. So for me, I will still continue to fight the fight, and I would ask you to join me in the fight together with the other NGOs and also the government agencies. Before I end my sharing, just want to mention this is a belated Global Tiger Day. So in 2019, we did a run where we mobilized our field rangers to be at the booth to answer questions from public about what we do on the ground. And because of COVID as well, 2020 did not allow us to do a physical event, and same goes to this year. So this year we are using football as a team, which is Score for Tigers. So let me play this so that you get more information on that. So before I end this as well, I would like to say, I'm happy World Rangers Day 2021, and really, I know a lot of people don't know much about what rangers do. I would say that they have contributed a lot. They have sacrificed a lot in the forest just to keep the forest safe. So I would like to say, thank you so much to all the rangers who have contributed to this effort. And with this acknowledgement of funders and also partner, I would like to end the talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I'm sure all of us are interested in, taking part in your football, football challenge. to help raise funds. Thanks for sharing the news about tigers in the north, and for your call for us to band together, to work together to make a difference. Yeah. Afterwards, when we have question and answer, let's talk about how we can all work together to achieve this. Thanks again, Chris. Next up, we have Ms. Low Chee Pheng, who is another young Malaysian who is also dedicating her life to saving tigers. Chee Pheng is from the Wildlife Conservation Society Malaysia, where she joined as a researcher in 2008. She has been actively involved in various components of the Johor Wildlife Conservation Project in Malaysia. She currently manages the Tiger Project, Tiger Conservation in the Endau Rompin landscape. That's the landscape that's closest to us in Singapore. It's just in Johor, so Chee Pheng's tigers are really close to us. She coordinates all the activities there, camera trapping, corridor monitoring, enforcement activities, remote sensing. And she works with the agencies, and she's going to actually be talking to us about the work she does jointly with Perhilitan, which is the Wildlife Department, the Forestry Department of Johor, and the Royal Malaysia Police. Working together to ensure that tigers are safe and tigers are monitored. So to tell us more about this, could we have Chee Pheng, please?
Hi, and let me start sharing the screen. Full screen. Yes. Do let me know if you can't hear me or I need to speak louder. I know I tend to speak very softly sometimes. And thank you, Vilma, and thank you everyone for being here. And Chris has shared with us the overview of the Malayan tiger, and we all know that now we have less than 200 adult tigers in Peninsular Malaysia. And now I'm going to share with you specifically on how on WCS's experience in working together with the government agencies, particularly the police, the wildlife department, the forestry departments, and the Johor National Parks Corporation in the Endau Rompin landscape in order to save the tigers in Endau Rompin. Yeah. So let me start with an introduction to our site. And as Vilma said just now, we are the closest to Singapore, and our tigers are closest to you. And we work in the southern forest landscape in Peninsular Malaysia. And the Endau Rompin landscape is one of the 3 priority areas for tigers in Peninsular Malaysia. Yeah. And the landscape is about 4,200 square kilometers in size. And very similar to many other sites, the threats to the tigers in this area are poaching of tigers, and also the prey, the decline of prey species, and also habitat loss and degradation. You can see that in the map, our project site covers both the state of Pahang and Johor in Peninsular Malaysia, and there are multiple land use in this area. So that includes the permanent reserve forest that's in light green, the Rompin State Park in Pahang, the Endau Rompin Johor National Park in Johor, and other types of forests such as the forest plantations, state land forest that are not permanently reserved. And looking at this landscape, if we look closer, we will see that there are actually many people working in and around this landscape. Firstly, in the area with light green, actually the darker green in this map, we have the State Forestry Department, Johor and Pahang State Forestry Department, working in the forest reserve. So they are the one who will issue permit to whoever who wants to enter the forest reserve for research, for tourism, or if they want to have a hiking trip. And they are also the one overlooking the logging activities and or the extraction of timbers and everything that's happening in the forest reserve. And they enforce the National Forestry Act 1984. They are also the one managing the Rompin State Park in Pahang. And in Johor, we have Johor National Parks Corporation managing the Endau Rompin Johor National Park. They enforce the National Parks Enactment 1989, and they are in charge of all the administrations of the park, the tourists in the park, and also enforcement in the park. This area is not a permanent reserve forest, so the forestry department do not work in this area. But on top of that, there's two agencies who work in specific area within the landscape. We also have the Department of Wildlife and National Parks that can work anywhere as long as it's a wildlife related. Okay, they can work in the national parks. So the national park enactment doesn't actually. While we have the National Parks enactment in the National Park, the Wildlife Conservation Act that's enforced by the Department of Wildlife and National Parks also applies in the same area. So we see, and we also have the police who can deal with all sorts of crimes, and they may, in terms of wildlife, they may be conducting roadblock, and they may find people carrying wildlife products at the roadblocks. And not showing in this map, but basically everywhere around this landscape are the plantations. Johor and Pahang, in this area of Johor Pahang, we have many oil palm plantations, and many of these plantations are key access points to the forested area. So people would have to pass through the guardhouse or the gate of the plantations in order to access the forested area. So they play a role in protecting wildlife by controlling the access points. While Wildlife Conservation Society, WCS Malaysia, we work in the landscape, in the whole Endau Rompin landscape to monitor the tiger population. So our team spent a lot of time in the field, setting up the camera traps, looking for signs, and at the same time, we monitor what's happening. Snares being set up, poachers active in certain area. So if you look at this, it seems like everybody has very, very specific role. You know, Wildlife Department take care of the wildlife, Johor National Park take care of the North National Park and the tourists, and some of them even work in different sections of the landscape. However, if we look at everybody as a team, you realize we all work in the same landscape and we all play a role in tiger conservation. So, and all these different entities have their own authority, like they enforce different law, they have a different power. So if there's a wildlife related case, the wildlife department will be the one taking action. If there's a foreign poacher in our landscape, then police can also take action because these people are in Malaysia illegally in the first place. And these different agencies also have access to different parts of the landscape. The Johor National Parks Corporation control the access to the national park. The forestry department has the keys to a lot of the gates that are locked to control the access to the forest reserve. And we all have different set of knowledge of what's happening where in this landscape. So WCS know where the tigers are. The forestry department knows where are the active logging sites and where are the valuable timber. The plantation companies such as Kulim Wildlife including Berhard, know which road and which access point the poachers are using. So if instead of having many teams of just one team of wildlife officer, just one team of WCS researcher, why don't we have a team with everybody in it? So we have one team who can take care of everything. If we encounter a wildlife related case, the wildlife officer can take action. If we have a timber illegal logging case, then the forestry department can take action. And this is beneficial for everybody because the universal problem that all agencies face, I think every tiger landscape, every agency, every institution working in tiger protection, we all face one problem. We all lack manpower on the ground to monitor what's happening and to take action. And so if we can combine our resources, people with different power, people with different knowledge in one team, then we'll be able to achieve more with less people. Yeah, and we can also support each other in terms of manpower, equipment, and logistics support. And this is the reason why in Johor, the Johor Wildlife Conservation Project was set up with all these agencies involved. So we work together and we support each other to conserve tiger. So here I show a milestone of the multi-agency conservation effort under the Johor Wildlife Conservation Program. So it all started with a few tiger photos that was recorded in the Endarampin Johor National Park in 2007. So a few camera traps were set up by the WCS staff and the Johor National Park staff, and we recorded the evidence that okay, tigers are here. And then when we talk more and we noticed that it's not enough to protect the park only because it's not big enough for a viable tiger population. We need to also include the forest reserve. We need to also include the forest plantations and some of the wildlife linkages at the corridor area in order to have a big enough landscape to sustain a viable tiger population. That's why we decided, okay, we need a project with all these partners that can take action in different parts of the landscape. And in 2009, the Johor Wildlife Conservation Project was launched. And at the same year, we had the first multi-agency patrol. And slowly the multi-agency patrol evolved with the initiatives from different agencies. In 2019, we found that the tiger population in the Endarampin landscape is stable. And I will bring you with me like our journey, like how we started the multi-agency patrol and how it has changed over the years. So when we started the multi-agency patrol, we had very small teams. So we, in the photo on the right, we show the typical multi-agency patrol team that we have. So we typically have 1 or 2 staff from each agency. Because all agencies are short of manpower, so we could only do it 4 to 5 days per month. Yeah, with this small team. So this seemed very little. It's only 4 to 5 days per month, only 12 patrols per year. When we started, we were not sure what to do. Shall we try to get people to, send people deep in the forest, like the team in the photo below, with big backpacks to look for tiger signs and look for try to track the poachers in the forest? Or shall we focus on the logging roads? We have a huge network of logging roads in our landscape. So where should we go? And how do we achieve the biggest impact with a small team like this? And after a few years, we figure out that okay, with limited number of staff and limited number of days, it's better for us to be very targeted, and a lot of information has to be gathered before we start this patrol. So each agency will come with their own data on where we have found signs recently, where we have observed poaching activities recently, and then together we identify a site, a hotspot for that patrol. So with all this prior work that's been done, and the small team can also achieve very significant results, even though the team is small and we do not have too many patrols. So in the photos are some examples of what have been found by the multi-agency patrol teams in 2019. So the photo on the left is a snare that was active and that's used to catch mammals. And then they also found poachers who were hunting at the location, and also they also searched some of the premises based on the information provided by all the agencies. Yeah. So with a small team, we have to be very, very targeted. We have to make use of all the information that we have. Yeah. Over the years, with the tiger population declining, and all agencies realized that we have to do something. So we see a lot of efforts from the government agencies to also organize multi-agency patrols at a larger scale. So these are two examples of what has been done in Endarampin. So in 2016, 2017, we had the One Malaysia Biodiversity Enforcement Operation Network, the One and Beyond patrols. This participated by the Department of Wildlife and National Parks, the Johor National Parks Corporation, the Forestry Department, and also the military. And they managed to patrol, record 300-kilometer patrol in 12 days. And you can see that this is a very big patrol team, and they arrested 5 people in this 12 days. And another initiative was the Opkazana Taman Negara Endarampin Johor that was led by the Royal Malaysia Police. And in a 1-week operation, they managed to arrest 30 people, 12 Indonesian, 11 Vietnamese, and 17 Malaysian. Confiscated many species and wildlife products. So we can see that if you put enough manpower, you can have high impact. However, also through these operations, the One and Beyond and the Opskazana, we all learned that you need a very good coordinating team to organize patrols like this. You need to find a place to house all your patrollers before they go to the field. You need enough transportation vehicles. You need to have enough equipment. If people are doing day trips or they are staying at a base, you need to feed them. So how are you going to bring food to so many people at so many locations? So through all these operations, we start to learn, okay, if this is what we need for a successful multi-agency patrols. And in 2019, the Department of Wildlife and National Parks and the Royal Malaysia Police has initiated this amazing operation called the Ops Besepadu Kazana. It started in October 2019, and it is still ongoing right now. And we see that this Ops Kazana has a lot of key ingredients to the successful multi-agency patrol. There is a secretariat at the national level. There are regular meetings between the secretariat and all the agencies involved. And at each region, So there are 4 regions, and at each region they have a tactical team that are familiar with the ground condition, and this tactical team are also participated by officers from different agencies. So they exchange information, they plan the patrols together, they respond to the information provided by the patrol team. And it is conducted regularly. In 2020, there were 20 series of patrols for all 4 regions. And in 2021, 12 series has been planned, and each series is 15 to 18 days. And in Endau-Rompin, we made use of the existing collaboration under the Johor Wildlife Conservation Project. So we have already worked with each other, work among ourselves for so long. So our experience in working together has really helped us to manage this Obskazana much better. So everybody knows their role well. Like the VCS, we provide information, we provide logistic and technical support, while the police and the forestry department and the wildlife department each take the role to enforce respective laws. Yeah, and it was so successful that the first operation in Endau-Rompin actually ended up with the arrest of 2 Cambodians who were looking for gaharu in Agawut in the national parks. And they also had about 167 snares with them, not the wire snares, but the small nylon snares that they use to catch small animals for food. So we can see how effective a well-managed multi-agency patrol team can be. And
Chee Pheng, you have about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and with the collaborative effort in Endau-Rompin, we have been able to stabilize the tiger density, and on the right you can see the tiger density over the years. And however, this effort must be sustained. We must continue doing this. If we do not continue to do this, the tiger population will crash. On the left, you can see the snare index. Let's say in 2018, we reached the peak where 3.5 snares were found per 100 kilometer patrol. Yeah. And so this is actually my last slide. And these are some of the key ingredients that are needed for successful multi-agency patrol. Long-term sustainable funding. We need money to hire people. We need money to feed the rangers, to buy the equipment. And active secretariat is very important. A tactical team who knows the area well, yeah, and are able to coordinate between among the agencies. And regular training is needed if your rangers are rotated. So if you have new batch of rangers joining you and they do not know the areas or they do not know what data to collect, they have to be trained. And one most important thing is the centralized data management. We have to be able, we do not want to just record what's happening where. This information has to be shared with the agencies and the patrol teams so they can plan the future patrols in better ways so that they can be more impactful and more effective. So the PCS is currently working on a database that will allow this data sharing among the agencies. So yeah, I think that's all that I have for on this. And again, happy World Ranger Day, and together we can protect and save our tigers.
Thank you so much, Chee Pheng. That was it's so heartening to hear about the multi-agency approach to tiger conservation. There's so much information there, and I think we are so grateful to hear about it, because as people coming from Singapore, we don't know very much about what really goes in to making tiger conservation successful. So we really thank you for sharing with us. and hope we can talk a little bit more afterwards in question and answer. Thanks again, Chee Pheng. Oh, and one more thing about Chee Pheng. When we talked to her boss to ask whether we could have Chee Pheng come to share, he said, "Oh, you want? She's the tiger warrior." So, tiger warrior of Malaysia. Thanks, Chee Pheng.
It's a team effort. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure it is, yeah. Now next to another tiger warrior, we have Miss Lam Wai Yee. Wai Yee, something special about Wai Yee was that she was a Singapore girl. She's Malaysian, but she was cabin crew of SIA. So she represented Singapore and flew Singapore Airlines. So for that, we thank you, Wai Yee. Wai Yee joined WCS actually in 2011 as an intern, after which she joined RIMBA, an NGO, a conservation NGO in Malaysia for 7 years, where she was part of the project Harimau Selamanya. And during that process in RIMBA, she attained her MSc in conservation science, where she studied the activity patterns of poachers. So it's very interesting. She studied more the poachers than the tigers. And that's very important because we heard from her boss that she's a very good poacher catcher. So she applies crime science to lead her team of patrollers, all of them indigenous people, to do counter poaching activities deep in the forest of Terengganu. So earlier on, Chris works in the north and Chee Pheng works in the south, and Wai Yee works in the east in Terengganu. She is now Panthera Malaysia's country program manager, and she's responsible for managing and operationalizing Panthera Malaysia to do its best for wildcat conservation. So Wai Yee, please share your presentation.
Sure thing, Wilma. Thank you. All right, here we go. Oh, where's my full screen option? Just a sec. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Name's Wai Yee, and thank you for joining us today on a Saturday afternoon. It's nice and windy outside, but yeah, thanks for staying in and watching this. So I'll just go into my talk for today. Everywhere across Peninsular Malaysia where we're working hard to save tigers, we all do it in our own ways. And so today I want to thank Chris from WWF and Chee Pheng and the Wildlife Department, everyone who's been doing so much, all the rangers in doing their part and doing our different roles in tiger conservation and also all over the world. But today I want to talk about how we do it the Panthera Malaysia style. Yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of background about Panthera. Some of you may have heard of Panthera, maybe not. And then I'll talk about our story. Basically, I'll bring you along this journey, how we've started in 2014 and what we've learned and how we have been trying different things really and found what's worked and kind of kept on developing our methods. So Panthera is the only kind of conservation organization in the world that is focused 100% to the conservation of all the wildcat species and also their ecosystems. If you visit our website, you can see all the different initiatives, all the different programs that we have across the globe. And every single program is tailored and very specific to how we help to save these cats. And we usually go, we select sites based on how critical the species are for that landscape. And also, we also look for the potential for recovery. So, well, since it's International Tiger Day, we're gonna focus on the Malayan tigers here on this talk. So I want to introduce the Kennesh Project. So the Kennesh Project actually started out in 2014 under the Tigers Forever, Panthera's Tigers Forever protocol, we started out at looking these three, well, the tigers, leopards, and scarlet leopards and monitoring them. But that project actually was one that Panthera started in partnership with, with RIMBA. So it's a Malaysian organization that I used to work for. And it was RIMBA that implemented and developed the program. And it's only just recently been handed over to Panthera Malaysia. Where we work is, to the east, like Vilma said, northeast of Peninsula Malaysia. And we work very closely with the Wildlife Department. And much of our core area is part of the Taman Negara National Park. So what we call the core area is basically a defensible landscape where we are still seeing population of female tigers that can recover and can actually breed, and the population can recover. And so it's not just the Taman Negara protected area, but we also work in the forest reserves to ensure that, well, poaching doesn't enter from the different access zones. So we also work in the Kennesh State Park as well. And yeah, the size of this core area is about 3 times the size of Singapore, just to give you a little bit of context. So like I said earlier, this project started out being managed under RIMBA, but then it grew and grew and grew to have a lot of other activities, very key activities and little kind of sub-programs, including working really closely with the Terengganu state government to gazette a new protected area called the Kennesh State Park. And now, and also in working with the judiciary of Malaysia to strengthen prosecution rates. So there are a lot of these subcomponents that we realized, like this project was growing and growing, that it needed to be kind of divvied up so that we can all focus on the different components of tiger conservation work, not just tigers, but wildlife in general, and protecting forested habitat for them. So Panthera Malaysia took on the protection side and also the monitoring of tigers. So our team, which the entire team used to be RIMBA, and now we are Panthera Malaysia team, myself included. We call ourselves the Deep Forest Counter Poaching Scout Team because that's our main role. What we do is we go into deep forest, we help to identify and locate active poaching incursions in order to assist the Wildlife Department, assist the Kennesh State Park rangers, the wildlife authorities to actually effectively get an arrest of or to interdict poaching. We do so by trying to be as covert as possible, because once poachers know that they've been spotted, they'll run off. And well, walking in the jungle is like, and looking for people in the jungle, or tigers for that matter, is like finding a needle in the haystack. So yeah, we had to be really good at what we do. And these are some of the best guys that we've worked with, we've selected, and they're really hardcore guys on the ground. Most of them are indigenous, Orang Asli, but we also have Sabahans and other guys from Pahang and Johor as well. So we hone their jungle tactics, their tracking skills. These guys are so comfortable spending days and days in the forest, sometimes even weeks, just to track down, not really track down tigers anymore. We still try to look for tiger signs, but we use camera traps to study them, right? It's tracking poachers. What Vilma earlier said is what we have gotten pretty good at doing. But yeah, we still set out camera traps to make sure that, well, that the tigers that we are trying so hard to protect are still there. So we need to understand their population, not just how many tigers we detect year after year, but whether or not the individuals, the residents of our core area are persisting year after year. Sadly, the answer was no.
we were seeing a high turnover rate. So even though we were detecting about the same number of tigers each year from 2014 to 2018, we were seeing a high turnover rate, meaning that the population was not stable. So that was alarming for us. So we decided to stop monitoring them because we are such a small team. We needed to, well, and funding is always limited, right? So we had to make that hard call, that decision to focus on the protection side. And so we paused monitoring of tigers for 2 years. And we've only just started resuming the camera trapping this year. We've yet to have results, but hopefully, yeah, they're still there. And I'll walk you through what else we've been doing the past few years. What is the problem-oriented approach? It's not something brand new. It's actually a borrowed technique from the policing field. So what it means is basically we need to be very specific. Chee Pheng mentioned this in her talk. We need to be very targeted with the work that we do, where we work. So the whole philosophy behind problem-oriented approach is to, first of all, do a big threat assessment and then figure out what it is that we need to focus on. So we have to understand the problem, be very specific with the problem and the place that it's happening in. So, so if we're working in Kenyer, Taman Negara, we need to understand every little thing about it, about the landscape and about who and what the actors or what and how, the who, what, when, where, how questions have to be asked about the most critical problems that are attacking tigers. That way we can work on interventions that are targeted and can be used to prevent the crime from happening in the first place. So firstly, we asked, well, at the beginning, when we first started working in the Kenyer core area, we were seeing, yeah, there are people moving around in the forest. Even though it's a protected area, there were people there illegally. They were popping up in our camera traps. Yeah, and it wasn't, and yeah, surprisingly to us at that time, they were mostly foreign poachers. They weren't even Malaysians. And they turned out to be poachers from Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand. And we tried our very best to try to get better at finding them, locating them in the forest. But we had to ask which of these problems are the most critical to tigers and their survival, sorry, or rather their non-survival. And we answered the question, we know that tigers are being taken. I mean, the habitat is there, but their population was crashing. And this is largely because of snaring. And snaring is such an issue because it really is the only way people can catch tigers in the deep tropical forest. And they're so cheap and efficient that poachers would just kind of buy new ones, I mean, new cables, they'll fashion them, they'll set them in the forest, along the forest trail and leave them for weeks, harvest whatever they can, and then they just leave them there. So unfortunately, even when poachers are going after tigers, lots of other medium to large mammals are being poached as well, intentionally and unintentionally. So it's really bad news. Snaring is just bad news overall. So we had to understand that, okay, we asked ourselves the questions, where are these snares being placed? How do we find them? How do we locate them before they actually catch wildlife? So what we did was we used data points. We basically record on the GPS each and every time we find snares, where they're located, where the poachers are camping out in the forest. Sometimes they leave behind a lot of signs. So we are able to then run a spatial distribution model to try to predict their behavior, to understand or to predict like where should we go? Because like I said, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. So we need to get better and better in looking for them in the right areas. So you would think, well, 3 times the size of Singapore, that's a lot of space to cover, right? But poachers don't move around just through thick through the thick and slopey areas in the forest, they actually have lots of large loads to carry because they stay in the forest for months and months and months. So they need to move along the least paths with the least effort. And so these are the ridge lines, meaning our patrol team had to also go up along the ridge lines to look for them. But so what we were doing was kind of shrinking down the area that we needed to cover to the most critical areas. So much that they look more like a street map. So these ridge lines became our patrol segments. And we were getting better and better at what we do, and also with our coordination with the wildlife department and other agencies. And we were seeing success for the first time since we started. And so from 2017 onwards, we were helping the wildlife authorities in making successful arrests, because we were able to track these poachers down, to get to their active camp and alert the authorities covertly. So like I said before, if we don't get enough information, or rather if we don't remain quiet enough, our teams need to really do like scouting work, where you inch as close as you can get to the poaching camp and remain as quiet as possible. Get all the information that you can get about this poaching camp, how many people, where the stream is, where's the best place to enter if you wanted to conduct an ambush. So we do all that, and we are seeing better and better results. So we were able to assist the wild department in arresting 37 poachers. But we realized that year after year, the snaring was still happening, even though we were seeing a decrease in the number of poaching incursions. So what we term as incursion is when a single poaching gang enter the forest, stay for between 2 to 4 months, and then they harvest everything they have, they leave. So that's one incursion. So every year we were detecting about an average of 10 incursions. And we were starting to see that reduction finally in 2019, but we were still seeing a lot of snares. In fact, the number of snares were increasing, and it peaked in 2017. That's when we realized that, well, there are actually different kinds of poachers. Even though they were all foreigners, the ones that operate in the deep forest, we asked that question, like, are we actually being problem specific enough? Because among the three main groups of foreign poachers that were entering the Kenyur area, the Cambodians mainly went after the gaharu, which is a scented, valuable scented wood. They would put a few snares, but usually to trap smaller animals, not tigers. The Thais would also look for gaharu. They might put a couple of large cable snares and see what they get. But it really were the Vietnamese incursions, even though there were only there were 1 or 2 each year. They were the ones who were really laying down all these large cable snares. In fact, in 2019, we found more than 250 snares, just cable snares, large cable snares, targeted for tigers, and those were set by just a group of 4 poachers. It was insane. And when the two of them were caught, there were about 141 different animal parts at their campsite. So we wanted to be more and more targeted. We need to be more and more specific. So we were seeing improvements in our methods in how we locate them in the deep forest, but we need to understand how to prevent them from going in. So earlier you saw the graph where in 2020 we saw just the 1 incursion. That was a Cambodian gaharu poaching gang. We didn't see Vietnamese poachers coming in, and thankfully we haven't seen any snares since since the pandemic started. But we really think that it's because of the closed borders. We can't take all the credit, of course. It's also thanks to a lot of improved and increased boots on the ground being conducted by the wildlife department, the police the Royal Police, Malayan Police, the OBK series, and all that that Chee Pheng had talked about earlier, they're also happening across Peninsular Malaysia. And we really think this is having a very positive impact to protect the habitat, protect the tigers and all the other wildlife. But we can't just rely on being able to catch them in the forest, because they're going to keep coming in. Like I said, snares are easy to get, they're cheap. So they'll just keep coming in. And we also want to move away from, or not move away, but we can't rely 100% on getting them prosecuted for long enough to stay out of the forest, because, well, quite often, even after they have been arrested successfully, after all the effort, sometimes they're just deported, or they go, well, they may be fined and go to jail for a year, 2 years, maybe a few, but then they're back out. A lot of times they only go to, yeah, they only stay in for about 3 to 5 months. And then, especially now during COVID, they're just getting deported. So we need to figure out how to prevent them and to give them less and less of an incentive to go in the forest to poach. So what we're doing now is we are running a study to understand the Vietnamese communities that are residing in Malaysia, to understand their culture, understand what they need to rely on to earn a living, and figure out if they are in fact facilitating the crime. And if they are, how do we change their behavior? How do we change their minds? Because nobody wants to commit a crime on purpose. Of course, there are always incentives, but how do we take away that incentive? So this is the whole idea behind problem-oriented approach. We want to affect the behavior change, but we want to do it very targeted, in a very targeted way. And for us at the moment, it's to try to reduce this most critical, the biggest threat to tigers in the Kennesh Core area. So yeah, so we continue what we're doing because we have to. We have to accept as well that threats will change, threats will adapt. Poachers will also adapt. So this year and the past few years, it was the Vietnamese poaching gangs that were laying the snares. It could be different next year. Who knows? We didn't expect the pandemic to hit, but we really think that we need to brace ourselves, because once the borders relax, there's a good chance that poachers will start coming back in. So yeah, we have to keep our finger on the pulse basically and continue investing in well, crime analysis work and also boots on the ground, but be as specific as we can and have targeted interventions to save our tigers. I think I agree with Chris. We do stand a chance. There is hope. We are still seeing tigers in Malaysia, but we can't lose anymore, basically. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me today. Thank you. Thanks, Vilma. Thanks, Carmen. Thanks to the SWAG team. Oh, Vilma, you're muted.
Thanks so much, Wai Yee, for giving us so much insight into poachers and poaching. Yeah, thanks. It's wonderful to see different aspects of the whole problem and see the importance of getting to know a little bit more of what how to tackle poaching. So thank you very much for this, and we're so glad that you're able to make the presentation. Just wanted to share with everyone that Wai Yee is expecting a baby anytime now. So we're so happy that baby decided to attend Singapore Tiger Week as well. Yeah, all the best, Wai Yee. Yeah,
you.
and to
Thank you
baby.
so
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so last but not least, we have Ken. And Ken is from MyCat, or the Malaysian Conservation Alliance for Tigers. So Ken has been with MyCat for 1 year, and with MyCat, he manages the catwalk program, the program that we swaggers love so much. He also trains the community rangers who are from the Batek tribe. Before coming to MICAT, he was traveling around for 5 years in South and North America and also in Asia. And before that, he was working in Sabah for about 12 years in orangutan conservation with an NGO called Hutan, where he was an honorary wildlife warden, and he headed wildlife surveys and management unit. Ken also used to own and manage an ethical orangutan tourism company in Sabah. So he brings a lot of experience to MICAT and to catwalks. And today he's going to do something very special. He does not have slides, but instead of slides, he has 6 catwalkers from Singapore. And so I'd like to introduce Ken. Ken, come on, please. And then your catwalkers, are you there? I see Tim Foot. I see Maslina Jalani. Where's Maslina's husband? Zaki? Zaki Saad. Very good. George Jacobs, are you around, George? Where are you, George? Yeah,
I'm here, yes.
George.
I
And
just moved.
Zahui,
Okay, yeah.
Zahui, where's Zahui? Zahui, Shoba, where are you?
There.
Shoba?
Yes, I'm there.
Zahui.
Yeah.
Hi, and Shoba is around? Good.
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
All right, I see all of them. 3 cheers for our catwalkers, wonderful. They are 6 out of 300 who have gone for a catwalk in Singapore. Woo. Okay, Ken, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Hi, guys. I haven't met some of you, but I've met Tim in person. Yeah. So it's going to be a bit different this afternoon. Everybody's listened to what NGOs and Perhilitan has done, the whats and the whys of tiger protection and tiger conservation. And there has been a lot of information, a lot of explanations. The important question I would like to ask for citizen conservationists is then, what do you do with this knowledge? What do you do with the knowledge that you've inherited? Some of you have come on catwalk, some of you have contributed through fundraising, through campaigning. But what I want to hear is that enough? Do you think that's enough? And do you think NGOs can provide better platforms for you to then step up and contribute how you want to contribute, using the skills you have individually? Maybe we haven't done a great job of that. Maybe we haven't maximized the passion that all of you inherently have. And so I would like to take this opportunity to invite you guys so we can hear and try and move forward and adopt these changes, all to save wildlife, tigers, habitat. So who wants to go first?
I can start first. Yeah, I'm Tim. Been on quite a few catwalks myself over the years, and it's always been quite rewarding for me. Yeah, it's a very good question, Ken, because like NGOs, I think really an important aspect for me when talking about NGOs is that, you know, that they are picking up the community or making a community in the country that they're involved in. And it's so great to see today so many Malaysians really running all of these programs in Malaysia. And I've been happy to as a permanent resident in Singapore. We don't have any tigers left, so unfortunately, but you know, it is part of the same peninsula, and I look at NGOs as a place to make a community of nature-loving individuals. And I think you know, that ability to create a community provides hope to nature lovers, because in the world that we live in today, is very materialistic generally, and you know, you feel like it very alone if you love nature, and a bit powerless when you're seeing, you know, I'm only one person, right? But an ability for NGOs to involve the community, to get behind saving their nature, is always, for me, like something that NGOs can always work to improve on, because the more you have community involvement, you can move law, you can move politicians, you can move law enforcement, you can move land use, how land is used. All these things can kind of like follow. So I've been happy to be a volunteer, and I'm really, and it also provides a sense of pride. And so as long as NGOs can somehow provide a sense of pride as well to their local work, I think it's advantageous.
Thank you, Tim.
So I feel that my cat has, I mean, like going for a tiger walk is my cat walk is one of the best ways to be in for a volunteer or for people who are interested in conservation to be involved without actually giving funds, like. But what we have realized with the pandemic is that it cannot be done all the time, like. So the reason why my cat, the walk works is because you're there, you're seeing it, and you just feel that you are involved in some aspect. So how do we get that onto an online or to a wider community? I feel decision making is someplace which probably people like us will all be happy to give an opinion. We don't want our opinion to be matter, but if all of us are involved in a little bit of decision making, or at least what is the thought process, how NGOs are working. One of the things I find with NGOs is that they're very closed, because they're too close to the ground, and if you say anything, their heckles stand up. So I feel if it is a much more open communication between the volunteers or the common man, common citizen, and the NGOs, if a platform is built up, I think that will be fantastic.
Anybody else? Shobha, you mentioned that there was an NGO that previously invited people to come in once a year.
Yeah.
So something along those lines.
I work with this NGO called NCF, in India Nature Conservation Foundation. So they have this yearly event for 3 days, like where they every person who works for NCF, all the researchers, etc. People working for NCF, and they get all the donors. Basically all the stakeholders who are involved with them. Like they get everyone to come together for a 3-day event. And then where all the researchers present what they are doing, there's an oceans group, there is a mountain group, there is a tiger conservation group, everyone presents everything, and that I felt was a great place for people, like researchers and all people who are involved on the ground. They're too involved. For someone like an outsider, for me, I went there for those 3 days, and I felt and I understood the whole problem rather than watching a video or attending a talk. And if that's something which once things are open, that's what Wilma is trying to do by this online thing. But if we can eventually do an event where people actually come and do, I think that will be great. I think so. It's
Next.
I'll jump in. I agree with Tim that citizen conservation is a communal effort. It really is, there are individuals who want to take actions to make a difference for a cause that we believe. So I think NGOs should really consider how to engage these people who are already converted. Like for myself, before going for a catwalk, I really never thought that I can contribute, because I'm not a biologist, I'm not a researcher, and I'm just a common person, I'm just someone who just loves nature. So I think after Catwalk, I think for me personally, I wanted to do more. And because of the fact that I wanted to do more, I think there were people who were together with me who continued to engage me. And I think we have many of these people who wants to continue, but again, they don't know how to. So I think NGOs should really consider like, okay, how do we engage these people to continue the effort for conservation? All right, they should also take into consideration, like for example, if maybe those people who are living within the vicinity of Malaysia themselves, then if they were to go for a catwalk, then how can these individuals be citizen researchers? Continue to engage them, collaborate with them, and get them to like work with you for some of the things that you want to actually like spread in terms of raising awareness of the plight of the tigers, getting the kids, especially the young ones, involved as well, because of the fact that we need young ones to continue the torch and spread the words. And if we want the tigers to continue to exist for the next 50 years, we need the young ones to be the converts as well.
Agreed. That's a very good point. Anybody else?
I think jumping in. Oh, sorry. Lucky, you go first. You go first.
Zaki, we cannot hear you.
Can't hear you, Zaki. Maybe put on your mic. The mic maybe not on.
You go first, Sobe.
I can hear. We can hear now.
Okay.
Yep.
Just based on the slides, I think I see that the trend. I think that you can see that the trend in Panthera Malaysia seems to be looking at.
Just now was very good. What happened?
Why not you go first, Sobe? Sobe, why not you go first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. I think jumping in from Maslina's point, I didn't start off as like a nature lover or whatever. I joined Catwalk because Prof. Vilma asked me to join. Because she's been championing the cause for so long, right? Then I was like, okay, let me try it. And then I joined the first time, and then the first time led to a second time. And that's where I met Shoba. And like, it's just through these experiences that you kind of create your own community. And it's the community, is the experiences that kind of converted me into a nature lover. And now how I am continuing the efforts, how I am passing on the baton is by sharing the knowledge and the love that I have with my students. Yeah, and it's great because I realize students nowadays, they really know a lot and they are really very passionate about saving the environment compared to how I was when I was their age. Yeah, so I think this is something that we can continue to look into. It's not just about sharing knowledge, not just about sharing information, sharing statistics, but I think what can convert the average person out there, like, and anyone who doesn't really care much, is to provide the experiences. Like my student once shared with me, she was in kindergarten, and WWF went to her kindergarten to share a talk about marine wildlife. And from there, now she's 9 years old, and she's one of the few students in class who is championing like all these conservation efforts. Yeah.
Perfect. It's a good example.
So one of the things which I feel if we can start is like something very similar to Roots and Shoots Club. Wilma, you know about it very well. If something similar to My Cat we can start in schools, I think that would be a great, small clubs, that will be a great thing. And you have Zuhue and all who are teachers in schools. If they can start it at one school and if we can spread it, that will be great. And another thing, again, these schools can again talk about, like we are talking about, tigers being killed, but none of us are talking about why are tigers being killed, because there are demand for products. So why are we not talking about how do we stop that? That if the demand stops, then people will stop killing tigers. So that's something which the young can really play a role in, saying that they are, I mean, eventually they are going to the consumers, and if they start by saying that we are never going to use tiger products, I think the demand goes away by itself.
Okay. Zaki, you're on.
Yeah. So I was saying, right, I say based on even based on today, the speakers from today, I think the trend in tiger conservation lies a lot in patrolling. I think we should just all focus on how NGOs can support in direct citizen action by patrolling, you see, because it seems to be working a lot and has a direct impact on tiger conservation, I guess. So yeah, that's what I think. And I also think that we should talk about succession, that we have to bring in youth, and we have to bring in the passionate ones are not getting younger. So I think succession is very important, and we need more influential figures to champion our cause as well. So we have to think about ways where we can draw attention. I don't know, top of my head, TikTok, you know, Instagram, Facebook. These are new platforms.
I'm too old for that. I'm too old for that.
So I don't know, something that we may want to explore. Yeah, succession for me, I think succession and patrolling. These 2 points are my takeaways. Yeah.
Agreed.
One term I learned a couple of years ago is intersectional. Intersectional, it basically means that instead of each organization, regardless of whether they're working on gay rights, they're working on poverty, they're working on any issue, they're in their silo and they're just thinking about that. And if you're not talking about that issue, they're not interested. But actually, there's a lot of commonality. Like, for example, Wai Yee was talking about the people who come from Vietnam and Cambodia or Thailand to Malaysia to do the poaching. And that's probably in part because of poverty, because of lack of education. And so there's movements that do that. For me, I've been involved in animal rights, animal welfare for a long time. So I'm promoting vegetarianism. And loss of jungle habitat is the same thing like in the Amazon, where they cut down the rainforest to grow soybeans to feed to the cows and pigs who they later kill for meat. So I think if we look at it, we can see a lot of chances for these intersectional connections so that people in other movements, other issues can see that the tiger, what they're doing and what My Cat and other organizations are doing for tigers are really related. So like I posted about today's event on this organization called Effective Altruism. So they look at how people do their altruistic organizations that try to change the world, do they do it effectively? And I think hopefully some of them came and they saw that, wow, what the people are doing in the tiger movement, wow, they're really professional. They're really doing a great job. And then I also posted on LinkedIn, because I do a lot in LinkedIn with this alternative protein, you know, so we don't have to kill animals. And so, yeah, hopefully those people can also see the link.
Thank you, everyone. Wilma, how are we on time?
Yes, you're doing well. I think you only have about 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
So I hope this is a beginning of something where you realize as citizen conservationists that NGOs and governments are limited in their scope especially in dealing with you as individuals, because as a lot of us know, and as a few of the speakers mentioned earlier, we don't have the staff, we don't have the manpower, even to patrol an area. So to get additional staff to do this is also a challenge for us. And I really hope that this would then galvanize the fact that organizations such as SWAG can play a tremendous role, where you come together, have a unified voice, and with that unified voice, propose that to specific NGOs. I think that would be streamlining it. And as individuals, all of you have jobs, most of you have jobs. I hope, I pray that, and what you can do is lobby your company for their CSR involvement in a project that you believe in. Simple stuff like that. Talking to political parties, not necessarily the government of the day, but engaging with political parties that might run for government in the future. So you have foundations, and I really hope that we carry this and continue it, strive for something better, because for the Malayan tiger, we are running out of time. So please, you guys know where to reach me. You all have my number now. So anytime, anything, and my channel is open. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ken and the catwalkers. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and Ken for collating. I think it's a very interesting session, and a lot of thoughtful suggestions about open communication between NGO and volunteers, youths and developing youths, doing more outreach in the schools. Maybe we could do that, and championing our cause in social media, patrolling. We wonder then, Ken, we should maybe we'll take it in the question and answer, how we could help do more patrolling and being intersectional. So thank you very much to all of you. Okay, we've come to the end of the four presentations. Now for question and answer, over to Carmen to ask the first question.
Okay, Vilma, why don't you ask the first question? I'm going to bring the other speakers back onto the spotlight.
Sure. Okay, now I must, okay. Okay, I have a question here. Someone would like to know, would animal surveillance be a good way to detect the poachers? Thermal detection, drones. So I think asking about detecting poachers through animal surveillance, probably, yeah. I'm not sure whether it's clear, the question is clear. Anybody wants to take that? Anybody can take that.
As I understand the question, thermal detection from drones, right?
No,
Was that
no.
the question?
Thermal detection and then use of drones.
Use of
so
drones.
I think thermal detection is different from the use of drones.
Well, I think everyone's got their own answer for this.
Yeah, I think the question was about aerial surveillance, right? So detecting the poachers, maybe like from higher above instead of like walking into the forest.
Okay.
So I guess that is, it depends on the area where you're talking about. So like in really thick forest, and that's really difficult. Yeah, with our rainforest, with the canopies. But in some area, maybe that can be done. Yeah. So in areas that are more open and or by the rivers where they can be detected from the top. Yeah.
Thank you, Chee Pheng. Shall I ask the next question, Carmen? Or I have one, if you're
yes.
ready with one? Okay.
I'm ready, but you can go ahead.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead, please.
Yeah. Someone's asking about what incentives could you give poachers so that they become patrollers? Would Wai Yee like to
Try.
take that? Yeah.
I'll try my best. Well, I think the first step is, well, you know, what we're trying to do now really is to understand what is incentivizing them to be poachers, or rather, why are they pushed to becoming poachers in the first place? So we don't have the answer to that, because we have some for those that I think earlier, wasn't it is it George? Yeah, he mentioned about poverty, but even poverty is a very broad reason, right? So it like specific communities will have specific issues that might be pushing them to resolve to to do poaching. So this is what we're trying to understand, but it has to be like going through social surveys and to understand, interview them. And so we're hoping to crack that one. That's a really good question, though, because we have seen cases where poachers do turn to become rangers, but it's a big change. So firstly, we have to understand why they need to poach in the first place before we can try to affect that sort of change. Maybe firstly to stop the poaching first, and then look at how to convert them to becoming rangers. It will certainly be assets, because they know where to find because they know where to find the tigers, right? So yeah, thanks for asking that question. Hopefully we'll get some answers soon.
Thank you, Wai Yee. I think I'll ask the next question. Actually, this is a question that I have for all the speakers. As we heard yesterday from Mr. Hazril and also Ms. Lara, both of them have given two numbers. Hazril has said that based on the National Tiger Survey, there are fewer than 200 tigers in the whole of Malaysia. And Laura actually gave an even more gloomy picture in her documentary. She said there appear to be fewer than 150. So I want to ask you all who are on the ground doing tiger conservation work, the survey has been going on for quite a few years. So does the result change your approach? I mean, what does it change your priority? What are you going to do differently now that you know with the census results are out? And shall we start from the order of the speakers? So Chris, Chee Pheng, Wai Yee, and Ken. Thank you. Did we just lose Chris?
Sorry, I got disconnected. It's almost raining here, so I hope you bear with me.
Okay. Yeah, Chris, you're back on. Shall we?
Yeah. So if I understand the question correctly, with the new results, are we changing our tactics, how we move things on the ground, right? So basically, we based on the tactics that we have been using, and we are monitoring that using the research team, using camera traps and count the tigers as well. So when we deploy more patrollers to go on the ground, we can definitely see a reducing of snares and threats, which one of the main purpose of that is so that no tigers are taken away from the forest itself. So this is where the next phase is going to come in to see how many individuals are there after we have put down on the ground all these kind of tactics. So we last surveyed our site in 2018, and we were seeing some drastic drop in tiger population. And now we have set up all the camera traps, hopefully to monitor them across a few more years. And then, but what we are seeing at this current moment with the ad hoc of cubs being there, and there's lesser threats. So with this simple formula, we can expect that to see that the tactics are somewhat working, but we will need to confirm that after we have run through another ground survey.
Chee Pheng?
Yeah. So yes, so the tigers are definitely very worrying, but it's like why you say we need we need to look into the details, right? So what's causing that in each landscape may be different. So like, of course, all of those have the same common threats, like poaching, but who are the one doing that? For some sites, connectivity may be a big issues, and it's so like such as in connectivity is another thing that we really need to look into, like try to protect and perhaps create more corridors for our tigers, so that because if they don't have the habitat, if they can't disperse them, the tiger can't survive long term in our landscape. So for me, I think we need to really look into the details and find out what's the most important strategy for your site, because all of us have limited resources and we really need to tackle the most important one. Yeah.
Thank you, Chee Pheng. Wai Yee?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what what Chee Pheng was saying. Every site's different, and for us anyway, and for Panthera Malaysia, and how we knew that tigers were in trouble the day we started working in this landscape, and it's just getting worse. But you know, doing the monitoring is important to know how they are doing, and whatever that we try has to have some impact. So if it's not changing the trend, then we're not doing it right. Because of that, we need to think out of the box and continue trying and researching and testing basically all our methods. So the numbers haven't, they haven't changed our sole purpose of wanting to recover them. It is alarming, and I'm hoping that it is a huge wake-up call for Malaysia, and it does move things along, because we're seeing a lot more buy-in from government agencies to do more as well. So it really is a team effort. I mean, all around, even supporters from outside of Malaysia. I mean, you guys who are doing this Tiger Week, it's important to get the message out there. So the tiger numbers are important. To keep tabs on what's happening, what are we doing, whatever we're doing is making a change. So I don't know if I answered the question, so it's like a yes or no, yes and no at the same time. But yeah, I'm really hoping that, like Chris said, same in Kennesh, we've also just laid out 200 camera traps in the field. We're hoping to see some positive results, because when we look at the poaching incursion numbers dropping, we're just praying and praying that that's having an impact for the tigers. It gives them time to recover. And I'll answer the COVID question when you ask it next. Thanks.
Thank you, Wai Yee. Ken?
I think from a national perspective, we have to get forestry involved a lot more. There are quite a few tigers that are outside totally protected areas in Malaysia, and maybe this is not addressed enough. So looking at that, yes, I think forestry playing a larger role instead of just logging would be great. I think that would help a lot, looking at national figures.
Thank you all. Vilma, do you have the next question?
Actually, there are some related questions, but I think you all kind of answered it partly, but I'll reiterate the comments, the questions in terms of comments. Someone commented with a lot of passion and emotion that like, why are the forests being cut down, and why is forestry doing this? And the person also mentioned Malaysian elite giving forests away to be cut when forests are really needed for tigers. So that kind of ties in. And another one wanting to know about then how many tigers are in protected areas and how many in non-protected. And so besides eliminating threats, how else can we raise the number of tigers? Anyone?
So for the question about the deforestation, I think it's, so the person has correctly pointed out that the state government is also involved in this, and it's basically a state issue, while a lot of the efforts that we mentioned just now, such as the Observasi Padu Kazana, is an initiative at the federal level. So the land issue is definitely something that's very critical, and like I say just now, for Endarompton, it's one of the major threats for our tigers. And there is a National Tiger Task Force that's been announced by the ministry, and hopefully through that that task force, then more conversation can be held with the state government, you know, to look into this issue and provide them the incentive to actually like keep the forest instead of converting them to such as like plantations or mining, because they needed that income. So like the state government needs the incentive. Yeah. And for the question about what other things that can be done, like I said just now, looking into land use method and habitat connectivity is another thing that we can do, and perhaps prey augmentation in areas where prey population has been depleted is another thing that we can look into.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wants to address those issues? Okay, I think we can move on to another question. Carmen?
Yeah, there are quite a few questions. I think after hearing what Wai Yee has said, that the poachers are coming in from outside of Malaysia. So I'll group some of them together. They relate to the same topic. So Ian asked, are most of the foreign poachers entering legally or illegally? And if legal, what did they enter Malaysia for? Is it for work or otherwise? Is anyone working with immigration department to address this area? And I think the other question, you know, was similar. You know, what can, yeah, and I guess I'll tag on to that. Are these, based on your experience, are these crime syndicates, or they're just like, were they sent there by some organized crime syndicates? And is there a diplomatic solution?
Does anyone, if no one else is taking the question, I'll try try this one. Yeah, you know, again, good questions. So if we're talking about specifically about the tiger poachers, you know, like I mentioned, there are Gaharu poachers, there are different kinds of poachers harvesting different things in the forest. But if we're talking about the ones that are targeting tigers, in any case, the ones that we've encountered, and I have interviewed myself personally, there are, like, part of their poaching gang, some of them would have legal working status in Malaysia. And this is like a way to earn additional income. And for some others, they enter legally through, because we are Southeast Asian region, right? I mean, like, they have free, what is it, 1 month pass, I guess. So they enter legally, but then they overstay usually, because each poaching operation could last up to 5 months. And I think there are efforts to work with the immigration department for sure, but it's not easy, because once they are deported, you know, after they serve their sentence, they're deported, they can change their, I mean, they get a new passport, and it's difficult to actually screen them at the borders like that. Because I think I saw another question about asking, that was asking whether we can actually ban them from coming in. It's tricky, because I think there had been a couple that were caught twice. Like, you know, we know they're the same people, but then they probably came in using a different passport, so it's tricky. But again, you know, like I said, it's hard to stop they'll just keep coming in, whether it's the same people or different people, because yeah, it's not easy to just keep plucking out the weeds, right? We have to find ways to discourage them to want to come, and that's why we try to focus on looking at the problem rather than the individuals, or going after kingpins and things like that.
Anyone else who would like to answer the question? No? Okay. Vilma, do you have the
Yes,
next
I do.
question?
Yeah, yeah. There are other questions. I'll put these kind of two together. Someone is interested in connectivity and corridors. So they're asking about, could someone talk about, are there corridor connections for wildlife? And I think maybe Ken can talk about that. But in addition to that, another person wants to know about the central forest spine, and is there any particular group that is looking after tiger conservation in that area? Because today we have Chris presenting in the north, and then Chee Pheng in the south, and the northeast we have Wai Yee, and we know that Ken and my cat works more in the central, the Sungai ecological corridor. Is anyone taking care of the central forest spine as well? So two things, connectivity and corridors, and central forest spine. Wonder whether, Ken, you want to talk about the corridors?
Yeah, Wilma, I answered that question briefly on text. So there's something called—
Oh, you did already. Okay.
Just a little bit, yeah. It's a good place to start, the ICCFS. So if anyone's interested, they can download information on that. Otherwise, it's going to take 15-20 minutes to answer that question. There are a lot of corridors in Malaysia that connect wildlife areas. Quite a few of us work in said areas. So yeah, if they want to download information, ICCFS, it's a good place to start. Is there an NGO working in the Central Forest Spine? I think Pelindung is. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything about that. Is Hong here? is he attending? Maybe he can answer that.
So like SWAG, we are not very aware, and we are not, I mean, we tried our best to involve as many NGOs as possible. So yeah, we kind of missed out Pelindung, but it would be nice. I'm sure all of us want to know about Pelindung and what they do in the Central Forest Spine. So anybody out there who knows, who could share? If not, it's something for SWAG to find out. I love the Central Forest Spine. It's so wild.
Maybe I can answer, Siva.
Yeah. Dr. Siva. Hi, Dr. Siva.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's there's no specific agency per se to work on Central Forest Spine. It is assigned to the existing agencies. So it comes under the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources. But as somebody mentioned here that Malaysia land is a state matter, most of the forest falls under the land. So this goes back to the state government, and state government in turn will fall back on the state forestry department to manage the Central Forest Spine per se, but they too don't have enough people, and so I think the work they have to collaborate with NGOs and communities. But at the national level, they have a big national level committee which coordinates the implementation of Central Forest Spine. They've got a separate budget, federal budget that is given, but not to all the corridors, but mainly to the major corridors that has been developed and are being developed now. So it is what kind of it's kind of integrated into the existing agencies and so on. So there's so far, although there's been a lot of push to create a kind of a separate management unit and agencies, but the government feels that it should be implemented within the existing mechanism that's already there. So it's a challenging because there's a lot of land use issues in the corridors. So I think hopefully in the near future, there'll be more resources kind of allocated. Not only funds, it's not just of funds, it's also you need, corridors need more ranges. As what you realize that when you're doing the catwalk, actually you're already monitoring the corridor area. No? It's a corridor area. It's and when a question of awareness that comes along, okay, awareness to public, but the government also I was working with the government, they're also very worried that more poachers become aware. And they will go into these corridors because you don't have to go into the forest anymore. The government is already building these viaduct, underpasses, and so on. You might as well go and camp there, And so there's a two-sided coin. Huh? How much of information to be given out to the public, and so I think the best is to probably to work with the NGOs, and then NGOs can in turn know the communities they're working with. So I think that's how the cautious approach is now going on. But I think now, as I think in today's presentation, they are hiring some selected local communities, the Orangaslis and veterans and so on. So that some NGOs are also receiving some of these veterans and so on. But what I think Ken also pointed out, it is how are we going to ultimately the communities and people have to manage their own backyard. I don't think the government, especially the state governments, have that much of resources to go into conservation work, because conservation basically you don't see the returns at the end of the year. It's kind of ecologically oriented. So we as citizens have to kind of have to make sure that how we choose the government, how we ensure the government does things what the citizen wants, So probably more at a local at a level. I think yesterday there was an awareness that some kids don't know about local wildlife. They don't know about zebra and all that. So the locals have to convey this to the politician, and the politician, when they realize that the locals want this, then it shouldn't be like, oh, this government agency wants this corridors, But is the locals want it, Is the local citizens there around it, they want this corridor, they want the tiger, or they want the tiger to be taken away and put it in the zoos and so on. So I think there's a balancing act. I think it will take some time, to get this. So the issue that I think at the ministry level and so on, they're looking at the central forest pine as some kind of it will continue until the Malaysia plans and so on. So ultimately, maybe around 20 years or 30 years down the line, the connectivities will be formed, and there's now 37 corridors, and they being identified. Not all have been created, but it's being identified. So the plan is being revised now. I think a lot of NGOs were involved in looking at. So they are trying to reshape or revise the plan, and the plan should be out. The next CFS master plan should be out in 1 or 2 years' time, and hopefully the 37 corridors are there. Hopefully there may be more, or maybe they realign some of these corridors. So it is a dynamic thing, and I think there's a lot of role, a lot of. I think the corridors are you can say the missing link of the whole landscape. We want to connect, possibly, we want to connect from right from the north to the south, in fact, to the Thailand and so on. And so, but the local actions are very important. We can think globally, but nobody's acting locally, then it's no use thinking globally, because ultimately the poachers will look at it globally. They will come into the corridors and wipe out all the, so there's a lot of debate too, whether corridors are effective or not. Are we funneling the wildlife into a small area and then getting them doomed, because if you don't patrol it, this wildlife ultimately going to use this corridor, and then poachers will come and just wait there. So we have to make sure our management on the ground is strong. and it's throughout the country. So right now there's about 3 or 4 corridors being developed and managed. There are issues too in these corridors, so need to be addressed. So I'll just leave it that way. And Sungayu is one of the most important corridors, right in the central part of Peninsular Malaysia. As somebody said, if you put a pencil and a map of Peninsular Malaysia, it will stand where the Sungayu is. It's right in the center. So there's only connectivity to the 2 major forest blocks on the main range, and so we can show them be a good example for future generation to develop corridors in other parts of the corridors will have many issues because of the land ownership issues. We only have forested areas, we have highways, so we have to work with the highway authorities. We have the railway that's coming from all the way from Johor right up to the passing through there. So right now it's very low use, so the animals kind of can use the corridor, but ultimately the traffic might pick up. So we have to elevate the railway line and ensure there's underpasses, and there are plantations inside there, there are landowners inside there. We have to work with them to ensure that they too understand that corridors are important, and then maybe they too need to make sure they think beyond the traditional way of thinking of cutting down the forest and putting wild palm trees and so on. No? There are other things can be done, but maybe the future generation of these settlers will think that way. No? So the only way is like people, like citizens, like you are coming there to interact with them and open their minds and so on. Thank you. Sorry for the long intervention. I just, because CMS is something that has been in my heart, which so it's an important part to a lot of this megafauna depends on corridors connectivity. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Siva. Yeah, obviously it's very, very complex. So many things involved, but there are so many good things happening on the ground. But yeah, thanks for that answer and for the question. I think we are kind of running out of time, running out of time. There are other questions like on roadkill, on climate change, etc. We will compile the questions and send it to the speakers. And if any of you would like to answer the questions, please do, and then we can post it on our social media, and people can get the answers. But now, Carmen, shall I ask that last question? Yeah. Okay, so our last question is this, and this is for all our speakers in turn. If you had one wish, and that one wish was granted tomorrow, what would happen? What would that wish be for tigers? And we can start with anyone, maybe with Chris, but anybody. If you had one wish and then one wish was granted tomorrow, what would it be for tigers?
It's kind of sudden, but maybe on top of my head will be the perfect plan, the holy grail, the ideal formula where we can ensure that the tiger will survive together with, well, not just surviving in the forest, not causing a conflict as well. So living together with the human in harmony, and people are committed to implement those plans. That will be, what's on top of my head now.
Thank you, Chris. And I hope your wish comes true. Anyone else? Who's next?
Yes.
Chee Pheng?
Well, the wish. So I wish the public would understand the impact of the consumption and the need for wildlife products on our wildlife and our tiger population. If everyone in the world stop consuming the products, then there will be no demand, and then no demand, then we don't have to worry about, chasing the poachers. So if that could be done, I wish everyone would stop that. Yeah.
Thank you, Chee Pheng, and we wish your wish will come true. Who's going to go next? Wai Yee. Wai Yee, no?
Sorry, no, not.
Yes?
I'm still thinking actually.
Okay.
Ken, do you want to go first?
Ken, yeah.
Yes, I'll go. If there would be one wish, and this isn't just for tigers, although all of us work with tigers, it would be that the public hold the government accountable for certain things. We don't do that enough in this country, and we should, and especially now.
Thank you, Ken, and hope that wish comes true. Go for it. Thank you.
Oh gosh, I thought it was like one of those genie wishes, and it was going to be just, yeah, I just wish the planet really as a whole would just be a safer place for everyone to live, and barring Chris's, like, be able to live harmoniously, and again, barring Chee Pheng's, like, consume less, because we really don't need all this space. We really don't need all this material and everything that we're so privileged to have as human beings. Just wish that this wake-up call isn't just for people who love tigers. It's everything is interrelated. We all live on the same planet. So yeah, my wish is we wake up to that. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Wai Yee, and hope your wish will come true as well. Yeah, we've come to the end of today's session, but before we go, we have a few things. We want to thank everyone once again, all the speakers for coming on board and sharing about your work, which is phenomenal and really awesome and inspiring. And also to all of you who came to listen. Thank you very much. Carmen has something to add before we end.
Yeah, thanks, Vilma. Echoing Vilma, I want to thank all our speakers. We really appreciate your sharing your time with us, and in particular, all that you do for tiger conservation, all the on-the-ground work. And I want to thank our audience. I hope you have been inspired to take action for tigers. And one way you can do is to donate to tiger conservation organizations, such as the organizations that our speakers work for: WWF, WCS, Panthera, and My Cat. And as you've heard, funding is always needed, and to make sure that their important work can continue. At SWAG, we have created a Singapore Tiger Week fundraiser. Well, we decided that Singapore Tiger Week should be free for anyone to attend. We do welcome donations to causes that we hold dearly. So if you'd like to contribute, please scan this QR code. It will take you to the global giving page where you can make a donation that directly supports the work of Wildlife Society of Selangor and My Cat. And if you prefer to support SWAG, you can buy our swag from our web store. 100% of our proceeds go to programs that support wildcat conservation, including our very own Love Our Leopard Cat campaign in Singapore, and of course, My Cat's Malayan Tiger program. So please, any amount, big or small, is greatly appreciated. And Vilma, anything else to add to this?
Yes, just to remind everyone that Monday we have a continuation of our Southeast Asia program. We have Wulan Pusparini, who will be talking about the Sumatran tiger. We have Dr. Ju from Thailand, and she will talk about the impact of prey occupancy and other ecological and anthropogenic factors on tiger distribution in Thailand's Western Forest Complex. And we have Mr. Pie, who is going to talk about tigers in Myanmar, in the stronghold in the northern part of Myanmar. And last but not least, we have our friend, our dear friend, Anbu from Animal Welfare and Wildlife Rescue Organization called ACRES in Singapore, who will speak on the eradication of the sale of tiger parts in Singapore by their organization and our government. So please do join us, 4 speakers coming to talk about that, and that would close our Southeast Asia program. On Monday, it starts at 6 p.m. Singapore time. So we hope to see you there. Thank you, everyone, and have a very good evening, and have a good rest, all the speakers. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.